When I was a kid, college felt like a made-up place. Like Hogwarts or Narnia, a world adults talked about, but one I couldn't actually imagine myself in. I used to imagine it the way that you would imagine flying a spaceship. Cool, exciting, and completely unreal. I can remember when I was younger and all my teachers would say, "One day, when you're in college," and I'd smile at them like, "Sure, and I'd probably be able to fly by then too, right?" To me, college was fancy. A word people used in movies or grown-ups talked about over stacks of forms and bills I didn't understand. It was this magical place where people drank coffee and had deep talks under trees. And they wore backpacks, had laptops, and somehow had it all figured out. And I wondered, one day, I'll get there. Maybe. But someday always felt so far away until it wasn't. Because now, I'm a senior in high school, and college, it isn't so far away anymore. It's real. It's essays, it's dorm assignments, it's FAFSA. It's walking down those halls and hearing people say, "Last first day, last game, last everything." And it hits you how fast it all went. Because I played basketball all 4 years of my high school career. I gave it everything I had. The early mornings, late nights, the adrenaline, the sore legs, the time when nothing else mattered except the game. And I can remember when playoffs came around. We fought hard, we gave it everything we had. We played Carmel, and if you know anything about Brewster basketball, you can probably tell what happened next. We lost. But in that loss, I can still remember those final seconds ticking down on that clock. I can still feel those anxious butterflies crawling through my skin. And this was the moment when I realized everything in my life was about to shift. There's going to be no more team huddles, no more warm-ups, no more being in it with my brothers. And after a loss like that, there's this silence. Not just on the scoreboard, but in your chest. It's the kind that says, this chapter has now closed. And all the anxiety that I felt, all that fear or pressure, it just suddenly felt so small. Because what mattered wasn't the fear. It was that I cared. It was that I was part of something bigger than myself. And the game taught me something anxiety never let me see clearly. I was growing all along. So, before I get any further, I just want to make myself clear. I'm not here to talk about the clinical anxiety disorders. You know, the kind that requires diagnosis and treatments. That's a serious and real mental health condition that many people struggle with. And if you are someone out there who is struggling with this, I encourage you to go connect with the resources available. There's no shame in it. But however, I'm actually here to talk about the everyday anxiety. You know, the kind that you feel when you start overthinking, or the self-doubt, or right before a big project. That kind of anxiety. It's the kind that whispers, "Are you sure you're ready for this?" And this is what people call the normal anxiety nowadays. And when doing research about this and what it is and how it affects us, I found that about 1 in 5 people has anxiety to a degree in which they need to make active changes in their lives in order to better manage it. However, anxiety isn't here to harm you. It can actually lead you to success. Now, David Rosmer, a clinical psychologist, once said that anxiety isn't your enemy, it's your friend. And you must be wondering, how can this possibly be a friend? So, let's take a look what this truly means. Someone like Chris Evans, yes, Captain America himself, once almost turned down the role that made him a global icon. Why? Because of anxiety. He's talked openly about how he feared of losing his privacy and being known. And Chris Evans did something that many other people wouldn't do. Instead of running from this, he leaned in. He leaned into things like journaling and meditation. And Chris Evans, he didn't just beat anxiety by doing this. He grew with it. And a quote that I learned that Chris Evans said was, "It felt like the more I said no, the more I was trying to run away from something I was afraid of. Not something that wasn't right for me." And most of you may know him as this superhero, but what I know him as is these two things: strength and vulnerability. And that is what growth looks like. Or let's take another legend, for example. Michael Jordan. Now, most of you might know him as the GOAT, the champion. But what most of you don't know is that he is just like everyone else. Jordan has missed over 9,000 shots, lost over 300 games, and 26 times he was trusted to take the game-winning shot, and he missed. So, what most people don't realize is that Jordan wasn't fearless. He was relentless. He used the fear as fuel, the failure as feedback. And he's talked countless of times about how he used to visualize before games the worst case scenarios possible. Not because he was pessimistic, but because he cared. And this is what you call mental rehearsal nowadays. It's a practice used in psychology that a lot of athletes use. And to stay on this topic, I want to talk about two things to calm yourself down when dealing with anxiety. Because I used to be that kid too scared to ask for a pencil in class. But now I'm standing here on this big red carpet talking proud and confidently. And I bet you, if you were up here, just like me, or when you will be up here, you'd probably feel it too. Because guess what? It happens, and it's okay. But the two things I want to talk about is, one, cognitive behavioral therapy, and two, the 3-3-3 rule. Now, the first one, cognitive behavioral therapy, that's essentially the idea that you can work with your mind. Work with your mind to better roll with how you feel. CBT is a collection of methods, often including mindfulness. And if you still don't know what I'm talking about, picture it, if you will. A friend who is really into meditation. Everyone has one. However, meditation is not mindfulness. For example, it could be something as simple as closing your eyes and picturing waves slowly crashing over your body. Now, for all of you out there, I want you to try this. Try closing your eyes and picturing waves slowly crashing over your different parts of your body. Just take a little time. Now, for some of you, maybe it worked. For others, maybe it didn't. And if it didn't work, then I recommend the second option I talked about, the 3-3-3 rule. Identify 3 things around you, 3 things you can hear, and 3 things on your body. This essentially shifts the focus away from those anxious feelings and the racing thoughts. It provides a break from the mental loop. And if any of these 2 things helped you in any type of way, you're already doing something powerful. You're learning to take back control of what anxiety can sometimes pull us into. Now, I started this talk by telling you how the future used to scare me, of how I was that kid too scared to ask for a pencil in class. But now I'm standing here today, not fearless, but ready. I learned, and hopefully you learned, that anxiety doesn't mean you're weak. It means that something matters to you. So the next time anxiety whispers, "You're not ready," I want you to remember this. You don't have to feel 100% ready to show up. You just have to care enough to try. Whether it's stepping onto the court or stepping onto a stage like this, let your anxiety remind you of how much you care. You are more than your fears, you are stronger than your doubt, and you are already growing. Thank you.